Well, that infrastructure symposium aims to foster regional cooperation and integration for the development of the African continent. And of course, increased investment in infrastructure could go a long way in boosting jobs in South Africa. Our colleague Katlego Legodi is in Cape Town for us, and he's been observing proceedings there. Very good afternoon to you, Katlego. So we've heard what the president had to say about it, and a critical building block for economic growth. Over to you.
A very good afternoon to you, Nompu, and to our viewers at home. President Cyril Ramaphosa indeed describing this as a moment of great promise in terms of all of the developments around infrastructure, South Africa, and the Department of Public Works and Infrastructure. So more or less, most of those role players just coming into the symposium here to listen to the president in terms of these promises. But also what was notable there, Nompu, was him just releasing this book, this infrastructure book, but also at the same time giving us a sense of reforms that are underway that will ensure and push for these projects to see their fruition. Most of the role players here are just looking and listening into how then these projects are going to be funded, what would be envisioned in terms of development, and how they could be sustainable as well. I'm going to bring into the conversation now, take you deep into Africa. We'll start in Zambia this afternoon and speak to Minister Gabriel Pollen, who'll just give us a sense of really the president as reflection here and tying it to the plans that you have there in Zambia, and also looking at some of the issues that were canvassed at the forums meeting, whereby as 14 ministers from the continent were in attendance. Let's reflect.
I mean, that was really fantastic listening to President Cyril Ramaphosa, basically emphasizing the preeminence of African unity in terms of infrastructure development and focusing on infrastructure that actually helps the continent comes together. As you are aware, our own President Hakainde Hichilema, has been very emphatic in his speeches in showcasing and demonstrating that Zambia is pivotal to African developmentalism, given its strategic location right in the center of Southern Africa. And what we see from our investments, for example, is that, for example, the Lobito corridor, where we have connectivity all the way to the west, which diversifies trade routes for the continent. We have Tazara, we have Tazama, and the president has really made an important point there, basically demonstrating and illustrating the importance of infrastructure development. Infrastructure underpins economic development, infrastructure drives economic development, and it's important for us to recognize that infrastructure plays a crucial role.
So looking at also some of the plans that are underway in Zambia, how do we tie it to what the president has promised? For instance, he spoke about the Libido infrastructure project that will tie and more or less connect all of these countries. How do we see some of the projects that you have as well, just tying into what South Africa is doing here?
I mean, they're fantastic, ambitious projects in Zambia, very well connected to the rest of the region. For example, in energy, in mining, and just in transport and logistics. And what the Lobito corridor is going to do is to demonstrate the capacity of the region to come together to the rest of the world. And when we come together, what can we achieve as a region? So we see substantial infrastructure investments that are going to go in that arena. Now, what that would do is that it would develop the mining sector, connect the rest of the country to the rest of the world through its relations within the context of the region.
All right, Minister Gabriel Pollen, thank you very much for your time coming through from Zambia. I'm going to take you now, Nompu, to Lesotho. This is where we find Minister Neo, who's joining us this afternoon to also reflect with us as we look at the projects that are underway there in Lesotho. Thank you very much for joining us on the SABC. Take us into Lesotho, Minister. What is happening there, and how does that tie in to what the President was saying here earlier on?
I think one of the messages we are carrying out from the presidency here is to say we must be turning the region into a huge construction site in practical terms in order to develop infrastructure and therefore to lay a foundation for industrialization and all the other issues that we need to do. In particular for us, we've had a long collaboration with South Africa through the supply of the Lesotho Highlands water to the Gauteng region. So we are in the process of finishing that project, which will be done in about 4 or 5 years. And then we also need to work on our roads. We've laid ambitious plans of adding to about 25% capacity of our current road network in order to expand network, especially to connect to the border towns in South Africa, in particular on the eastern side of our country. So we need to work with Sandral in that regard to get them to align with our programs. That's that. The other issue that we are seriously looking at, up to now we have been net importer of electricity from Eskom into Lesotho. With the challenges that Eskom went through previously, a seed was planted in our minds that we should be looking at being a net producer of green energy. And in that regard, we are aiming to achieve self-sufficiency in 2 years' time, and in about 5 years' time to be selling significant portion of our Lesotho-generated electricity to the region, as well as South Africa in particular. And to this regard, our Prime Minister and the President have been flagging a figure of around 2,000 megawatts. I think we will do better than that, but that's what we are working on. Yes, finally, we are also aiming at supplying water to Botswana through what we call the Rosacom system, and that should start happening. It's already on the planning phase, so we're looking at the environmental aspects related to that, but that's the project that we should be pushing as well. So all these projects will turn Lesotho into a construction site. All these projects would need professional skills as well as technical skills we may not have. So we need to get the free movement of professionals and people around our borders to work such that we don't encounter any problems. Thank you.
All right, Minister, thank you very much for your time. Minister Machatu, Neo Machatu, coming through there, just giving us a sense of what they are up to there in Lesotho. And you hear Zambia as well saying they're upbeat. All of them just talking about turning their countries into a construction site, but most of them also talking about regional integration and ensuring that these projects come through for various of the citizens.